The way to success and happiness is not by acquiring material possessions. It is not through seeking to satisfy your passions and your desires and your lusts and following your whims and your inclinations. Rather, the needs of the human being are quite different to that. Islam teaches that those who follow this path, who worship this God, because it is a type of God, it's a type of deity. When you worship your passions and your desires, it is a type of religion in reality. It's a type of worship. It's a type of deity. That this is a false God. It is a false deity. Islam teaches that this is not the way through which human beings can achieve the real success. Because that is not the nature of the human being. Rather, Islam teaches that there is a creator, one God, who has brought this universe and everything in it. He has brought it into existence for a reason and for a purpose. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. And this begs the question. This begs the question. What is our purpose? What is the reason for our existence? Why are we here? What is the purpose of the existence of the human being? We have now discussed already something about the idea of the Coca-Cola culture, the materialistic viewpoint. But what does Islam say? What does the Quran say? The Quran teaches us that God has created us for a noble purpose. The Quran says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. This means that God is telling us in the Quran that He has created us to worship Him. Some people say, is that it? I mean, the purpose of my existence is just to worship God? And that's because they have a very narrow concept of what worship means. They think of worship in the secular materialistic term that has been defined by the Western society. Worship means maybe, you go to the mosque 5 times a day, or you go to the church once a week, you perform some rituals, you perform some acts. That is considered to be worship. However, the term ibadah in Islam, which we translate as worship, has a very, very deep, rich meaning. It is something much more than some mere formal actions that you perform. Worship in Islam is a total way of living. It is something that is supposed to occupy the human being throughout all of their life. From the moment they wake up to when they go to sleep, and in fact even whilst they are sleeping. Worship is supposed to occupy all of your life. And how does it do that? How does worship occupy all of your life? If we look to the definition of the term ibadah, and this is what God has created us for, ibadah, what does it actually mean? The word ibadah we can explain it as meaning everything which God loves and is pleased with. Everything which God loves, everything which God is pleased with is ibadah. Everything which God loves and everything which God is pleased with is worship, ibadah. Or we don't want to use the word worship, we'll just say ibadah. Whether it is from the actions of the heart or the actions of the limbs. What are the actions of the heart? People think, what is the action of the heart? Actions of the heart are things like love, hope, fear, reverential awe, trust, reliance, intention, sincerity. These are all examples of actions of the heart. So you have to try to make every action of the heart an action that God loves and is pleased with. And the actions of the limbs are things like, well, everything that you perform with your limbs. It could be prayer, it could be fasting, it could be the relationship between a husband and his wife. It could be how you walk, how you talk. All of these things are actions of the limbs. So you try to make every action that you do an action that God loves and that God is pleased with. And it is in doing this that the human being, and only in doing this, that the human being finds real peace, tranquility, happiness and satisfaction. Only in this. Everything else is like the Coca-Cola. You drink it, it'll give you a quick buzz. It'll make you feel good for a short time. But that is not going to last long. In fact, just as it made you feel good, soon it will make you feel bad. And in reality, it will never ever satisfy you. It gives you the illusion, temporarily, of happiness. Anyone who has been addicted to drinking alcohol or has been addicted to smoking marijuana or taking drugs, they will experience this on a more severe level. This is something that anyone who's been down that path knows. When you drink alcohol or when you smoke marijuana or whatever other thing it is, you get a moment. It may be, in the case of heroin, for example, it may last 24 hours. In the case of smoking marijuana, it may last, it depends, a few hours. You have a moment, you have that time where you feel a sense of peace, you feel a sense of happiness. But the problem is it wears out. And the other problem is that in order to get back that feeling, you have to take more and more and more. In fact, it gets to a stage that it doesn't even affect you anymore. But you are now addicted. You're addicted to the habit and you continue even when you know that this is no longer bringing you any benefit at all, but you are upon this path of almost self-destruction. You have become an addict. And the fact that it doesn't seem to do anything for you, in fact now, even the feeling of happiness is gone, but you are down that path and it is almost impossible sometimes to leave it. This is the reality. So it may seem that people who do not worship God, who do not follow that path of righteousness, who do not try to do everything that is pleasing to Allah, it may seem that they are happy. It may seem that they experience moments of happiness, and you may see those moments of happiness. And you may think, oh, these are happy people. These people have a good life. They have a good quality of life. But this is only the temporary outward appearance. In fact, if you observe the situation for long enough, and you observe it deeply enough, and you observe it critically enough, you will see that that is not the case. You will see that they do not stay happy for very long. An example of this that came to light recently in England was that the Minister for Health made an announcement that many young women were beginning to drink excessively. This is a problem in England. Many young women were beginning to drink excessively, especially what they call binge drinking. And they were worried because, and one of the immediate effects that they could notice is that this was causing a great deal of liver damage. It was causing a great deal of liver damage. And interestingly enough, I came across an article in a newspaper written by two young